a cast iron drain cover. That's my trusty pt2 grinder. I'm going to be cutting it along the red line. It's about 5/8 thick. Take a bit of time. Best laid plans. Got halfway through grinding it through, you can see. Ground from the top down to there. And the transformer packed up, which was annoying. So I had to finish it off with a hacksaw, thus the slightly out of breath. Anyway, you can see it's a good section. And next job's stick it in the power hacksaw, now it'll fit, and cut down the piece we need, which is that bit. Always a bit easier. It's nearest I can describe it is I bought a set of plans from Michael Boy to make a little powered hacksaw, and by the time I totted up the cost of all the various bits of material to match his plans, I just couldn't afford it. So I cobbled together what I'd got, modified the plans, and made that. It was alright. It's a little bit slower than his, but it does take a standard 12-inch hacksaw blade, as opposed to the Michael Boy one. You have to drill a hole in the hacksaw blade and take about 3 inches off its length. Anyway, so it's like 240 volt. Oh, what most of it I had. It likes cast iron because it's easy to cut. So we're up on the shaper and we're just squaring up. It's not easy for me to video because I'm doing it with my phone and trying to operate the feed. What is really spooky is viewing it through the phone screen, and there's about, I don't know, half a second delay between what's happening and where it is on the phone, which is a bit odd. My hand's already putting the feed on in the reverse before it's finished the forward stroke on the phone. Anyway, the original setup with the clamping didn't work. Third stroke in, slightly too much advance on the feed, and it took the workpiece and the clamps off the table and chucked them on the floor at the feet. So I'm taking it a little bit easier and a slightly different tool. It's not really right for the job, but it's doing it, so it can't be all bad. Just trying to get one flat face and then I can square everything else up to that. And as this was the sawn face, I figured I may as well do this one. Trick is not falling asleep to the rhythm. We're running on the slowest speed, which for the life of me I can't remember what it is. 46 strokes a minute if it was running at 50 Hertz. We're running at 41 Hertz, so what's that? 20% less. Not fast, but it is giving me time to adjust the feeds. And the advance of the tool, if you like. This shaper not being equipped with the optional extra, which is the vertical feed automatic. It's progressing. I'll tell you what it is when I finish. Well, I've been at it about an hour. Cleaned up that side, got that side cleaned up to give me a shoulder here, and then that level's only just above there. So the next job's to pick the piece up, turn it 90 degrees, and to take this off, and then bring all that area down to one flat level. And then when I've done that, to go up that face and create a 90, and at the same time a 90 to it on that face. And we're there. Well, yeah. Still going. Getting ready to pull it off the table and stick it in the vise. I'll get rid of the centre cap head. And now it's a bit lower profile, I won't get as much leverage from the cut. Normally have the radio on, but the news is for the referendum result. Britain has voted to leave the EU. My mind's full of worries and concerns, and none of which can be answered. All of which will be answered in the fullness of time. There you go. No, more fine. Well, Saturday morning, we're back on the job. Cleaning up the base, you know. And then we'll come round and clean up the vertical face. I'm only taking light cuts because I'm not convinced it's held very well. Could do with some parallels, which might be another job I have to make. So I'm taking 25 thou deep and coming across I'll do the maths in there. It's about 10 thou feet. It's a metric machine, so the lead screws are 5mm per revolution, so 5mm pitch. And that's both on the tool head and on the crossfeed. So that's we've now doubled the depth of cut to a millimetre or 40 thou, and we're feeding a millimetre. Is it a millimetre across? No, we're feeding 20 thou or half a mil per stroke. Nearly cleaning up. Nearly. Probably another 2 passes. This is a bit of a conundrum. Travelling along here, no problem at all. But then we're into the scale of the surface, obviously, and it's gotten through cut, and then there's a distinct, I don't know, 30 thou ridge there. Then it bit again. Then it's jumped again, and then I've fed the last bit just by hand. I've checked the cutting tip. That's fine. I've just locked the locking grub, which I want to change for a thumb screw, and it's got a little grub screw in there just to lock the gib in, so that locks the tool depth. Doesn't seem to have moved on the scale at the top, so whether there's, I don't know, just caught a piece of crap under it and the tool's ridden over it with the clapper box up like that, I don't know. Bit scary though, because when it does finally bite, you get these kind of chunks out the end. Another bit of learning. So we've just been cleaning up the radius at the bottom, which is essentially bringing in a radius tool and going left and right and up and down until it's blended it in. It's quite nice now. It's a bit fiddly, but it's done. So we've done that edge, done that. Got to swip it all around now, change the angle of the cutter, and then work down that face. Now cleaning up the base. It's an interrupted cut because we keep cutting off the grid pattern. I've had to ease back on the depth of cut because it was not liking it. I think it was the speed of the bounce of the clapper box versus the arm speed. The capper box was hitting the cut open and then jamming and all sorts. So 0.5 mil depth of cut, 3 clicks, whatever that is. It's about 7 mil advance. No, it can't be. 0.7 mil advance. Normally I wind it on, but I can't multitask. I'm still going over the part. Now it's picked up on the section where I reduced the depth of cut from before. Now I've taken down the castellations as much as I can, or as much as I can put it to. I've increased the depth of cut, slowed the feed down to a fraction of what it was for the lowest speed setting. You shall see how it goes when it hits the next set of 3 loops. There's about 0.5 mil of them now. 20 thousandths on the cut. Makes it grunt a bit. Hopefully the final pass. Swapped over to the round nose tool and we're taking 0.2 millimeter depth of cut. We're shifting across about the same. You're doing the maths for it in premium. And there we go. I don't know what that is. Crap. Not bad though. Never worked cast iron before, so that was the reason for doing it. Bit more about the shape of them. So it runs off an inverter, which is that on the wall, and it's a Chinese inverter, Huang Long or something like that it's called. Anyway, it's a 2.2 kilowatt inverter, and it's set up with a 3-phase plug at the bottom, so I can swap the plug over and run my Boxford lathe. Controlled it via a pendant. The speed pot on the right, forward and reverse, start and stop. Now the lathe is actually wired up with a RPM counter, and that's hardwired back to power supply in the inverter box. So when the shaper's on, the RPM counter's on the lathe on. I need to sort out some kind of a override for that. And yes, that is a Bridgeport head in the corner. That's another project. Anyway, so that's me finished for today. It's 2 o'clock. Been at it a couple, 3 hours or something. I'm going to go and catch trout for my tea. Cheers. So looks like that's tea sorted for tonight. It's probably what, just short of £2. Lovely rainbow. Caught the daddy long legs pattern fly. 6th cast. This is on my doorstep. About 15-20 minutes to drive. And there's me and one other guy fishing. So we're at opposite ends of the lake. It's bright and sunny now, but we've had some quite heavy rain. Nice spot. So we've stuck the bigger milling vise on, basically because this smaller vise is only 85mm opening. This one's 102. So we're machining the next part. Had to clamp the part to the table, clean up the sides, bring it down to size so it'll fit in this vise. And now we're just cleaning off the underside. In an attempt to save a bit of shaping time, I hacksawed off the ribbing. I want this end of it. Well, that took about 45 minutes and gave me arm ache in both arms. I need a new transformer for my grinder. I also took a chunk out the tip of this tool, so I had to regrind that. Anyway, it's easy when it's on auto feed. It's a 1/2 mil depth of cut from 20 thou. And it's feeding across 3 clips, whatever that is. Feeding across 1/2 mil per stroke. So I might increase the feed on the next pass. See how it ends up on the end of this pass. Really do with a bigger vise. I'd love a little. Well, I'd love a 6-inch Kurt vise, but nearly 600 quid. I don't think we'll be getting one of them in a wash. I do like the way that you can clamp. You put the jaws onto the outside faces and then clamp actually a bigger piece. So even though it might be a 5-inch vise, it'll clamp to like 7.5 inches. Which is handy when you're doing this sort of work. I think it's took me longer to work out and clamp the pieces than it did actually cut them. Not least because I've got a pretty poor clamping kit. I'll do some research and find out what we can use. Next cut. Same depth of feed, which is 1/2 mil, 20 thou. And we've increased the feed to its maximum, which is 4 clips, which is going to be 0.6 of a mil, 0.7, something like that. You can see the feed line. Clear a bit more. It's a 1/2 mil depth of cut, and it's 0.3 mil feed. And we're running at 37 hertz on 40, whatever that equates to, it would be 60 strokes a minute at 50 hertz. So we're what, 20% down on 60 strokes. What I found is, because of the interrupted cut, if I run much faster, with the tool bouncing around on the cracker box, it runs the risk of chipping the tool tip. And whilst the tool is cheap, I spend more time regrinding than I do actually cutting. Anyway, I spent half an hour last night looking at T-slot toe clamps. Can't find anywhere that sells them at the moment, so I might end up making a set. I only need two clamps and 2 fixed stops. That'll get me over much of the clamping issues that we're having. So once again, making tools to make tools to hold tools. It's clearly far too early in the morning for this. You can see that's where the tool started cutting, and it got progressively deeper. I couldn't work out why it was sounding louder, so I knocked the feed off and just fed it by hand, and it carried on. And then I realised I was running it on a cross feed without tightening the compound grub, so the tool was pulling itself into the cut more. So I really do need to make myself a thumb screw. Anyway, no damage. Getting down to the final pass, I hope. Had trouble with the tool bouncing, and when I looked at the tool, the edge was rolled over, or worn away probably. So I took it out, resharpened it, reset it, slowed everything right down. We're at about 30 strokes a minute, something like that. Now it's taking a lovely clean cut. It's coming up to full depth as it should be, which is where I stopped it in the last cut. It is nice running it on an inverter with the variable speed option. Anyway, that seems to have sorted that problem. So that was the last pass with the, what do you call it, a knife tool. I can't remember whether it's left or right. I think that one's a right hand knife tool, but it moves across to work in that direction. I think that's alright as a finish. I'm not even going to bother putting the finishing tool over it, because I can't feel any ridges, and for my purposes that's fine. So there we go. After a bit of filing and a bit of drilling, it's a tool grinder post for the Clarkson, because I'm sick and tired of using a cheap and nasty tool grinder on lathe tool bits, which just ends up vibrating the hell out of everything. And this runs up nice and smooth. Sorry about the lighting. It's held on with a M8 T-bolt hex head on the inside and the cap head on the outside. Bit of fettling now and then we're done. Yeah, not the most efficient way of making it, but I've never worked cast iron and I wanted to do a project just for the shaper, and that's where we ended up. Still plenty to do on the tool cutter grinder. Because this has got the wheel wrapped either side, I've got to make up some stops so the table doesn't traverse I have to have a think about that one, but at least I can sharpen some lathe tools properly.